been doing it every Sunday as kind of a way to catch up on announcements that happened after we printed the announcements. So kind of catch up. And so anyway, that's been kind of, oh, there you are. Now we're back. So it just was one of those ways to connect people together.
Yeah,
Mostly cover stuff that I forgot. So how have you been?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah, nothing new with me. Michael is wrapping up his final year, like final term of his university degree.
And what's his degree in?
He's going to be getting a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science.
Ooh.
And then he has actually applied to Carleton. So we've all done stints in Ottawa. He has a girlfriend who's from Montreal. Her name is Sarah, and she's applying as well. So they're both applying for a 1 year. He poli-sci, she environmental science. She's actually from Montreal, so that wouldn't be too far for her, right? And they're going to live together in Ottawa if they both get it. And then they're both applying for that NSERC, like the National Research something. You get like $30,000. So that would pay for both the degree and their living expenses. So so he submitted all of that to Carleton. And then Sarah, who is a social worker, she has her Bachelor of Social Work from Carleton. She's applying for the 1 year master's as well from Carleton, but she'll just do that from here remotely.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're both doing well. And then, Mike will have to go there to live. And then he hopes to get on with the federal government.
That's the thing about like with millennials is that the amount of education that they need to get in order to be on sort of an even footing with previous generations is quite something. My first year at Carleton was in 1991 or 1990. And I remember my tuition for that year was about $1,100.
Wow.
And I was able to earn that money working in the summer all night at a donut shop. Andy's Donuts, it was called. And I was able to pay for my whole tuition just by working in the summer and save up a lot of money for living expenses and all that kind of stuff. They can't do that anymore.
No, Sarah and Mike are lucky. Both their first degrees were paid for, but they're on their own for anything after that. So Michael figure it out. And then if they live together, it'll be fine. I think this is it for both of them. They both quite smitten. They've been together since first year, right? Yeah. So I said, I'll probably fly up if, they get this. And I would like to introduce Michael to you actually, just, in case he needs an adult who could help him out. He rolled his eyes at that. I said, well, Reverend Mike is pretty cool. Like he's not what you would think. He has this vision of my mother knows a reverend in Ottawa. Great. I said, no, this guy is like cool. Like you wouldn't think in a million years, but he has that skill set. Plus he's just a regular human being. He gets it.
Well, I don't know.
So Mike is like Mike and Sarah. I said over Christmas, well, if this works out, I'm going to introduce you to Reverend Mike. And they're both like, they didn't say anything, but like, that's the last person we would approach. Would he need to know if we're living together? He'd be okay with that.
I hope so.
A regular human.
I went to Carleton and we were just talking about Carleton the other day, our little family, because we were trying to think about things that we could do in cold weather to sort of get some exercise. And I don't know if we'd be allowed now, probably not because of the pandemic, but the tunnel system under Carleton.
Oh, excellent. Yes. Yeah.
Whoa. I probably get lost if I went there again, because the last time I walked those tunnels was, my gosh, I guess I graduated in 1996.
Yeah, Sarah loved it. She would go because she lived in residence for 2 years, and she would go from her, residence under the tunnels. Yeah, just in
some kids didn't go outside for the whole winter. You would go to class and you'd have kids sitting there in shorts and t-shirts and flip-flops, and it's because they never have to go outside.
No. So I'd be very excited if they both went to Ottawa. So Dick, how are you doing? I don't know if he's there or not.
Well, his name is there, but I don't see him.
Yeah.
I don't know where he is.
Well, no one else is joining. That's a shame.
Well, this is the first time I've done the
Oh,
pre-social.
okay. Yeah, I just thought I was scanning Facebook and saw it and thought, oh, I would love to see a few people. I wrote Barb and Laverne a lovely Christmas letter by email. She responds, and I mean, I think I told you this when I last saw you. She is just the most beautiful writer.
I just told her the same thing. Every time I read her emails, I read it in her voice.
Yeah.
And it's like very comforting. So
Like she has a real skill. And that's how I first got, I used to write when I would go there at first, and I didn't know you specifically, but I would give my monetary donation on my envelope, and I would just say, you know, to the person doing this, I really appreciate it. It's a lot to organize, and have a lovely week. So then one time, I don't know how it came to be, but I heard her talking to someone saying about this envelope that always had a little note. She said, I would love to know who it is. And I mean, she knew who it was, but she didn't know how to get a hold of me. So the next time I wrote my email, and then she replied to me by email, and just, yeah, I love her letters. They're so sweet. They're a lovely couple.
absolutely.
I wish they could bottle that up and sell it to other younger couples.
Well,
Like maybe all you needed is a teaspoon of that, and you'd be like, I wonder what the success is, like what they would say, you know, their success has been, because you and I, you know, we both divorced, and, you know, and you're a reverend. I mean, if you can't make it work, who in God's name could make it work?
We were both reverends. So there you go. Maybe we can't.
Oh my gosh. Well, very stressful.
Maybe it was like a positive and negative charge coming together. Who knows?
Very stressful.
But you bring that. It's funny because oh my gosh, we were divorced in 2014, but yeah, divorce is a funny thing. People keep calling. I was just talking with a family member who's going through the same thing right now, and one of my distant cousins, and he and I were kind of ruminating about the whole thing. And this one phrase that kept coming up again and again was failed marriage. You know, what's it like being a part of a failed marriage? I'm thinking like, it really wasn't a failure. Not really. No. I mean, we got together at school. We helped each other through our education. We were colleagues, and we helped each other establish ourselves in our vocation. We had these two wonderful boys together. And I think that's the most important thing we did. And that's certainly, their existence is not the product of a failure. Their existence is a product of absolute success and two people creating great people. So, anyway, I think it ran its course, my marriage. And now I'm married again, and that's wonderful. So
and I think we just don't know. I'm always, talking to Michael in particular, because he has in a committed relationship. How do you find your communication? How do you find your problem solving? And you know what? He brought up a great point, I would say about a year ago, because Sarah lives downtown Montreal. Her parents are quite rich, in a busy part of the city. And he goes, for Sarah, that's, her ideal would be to live like that, in her future. And Bradley and I, my former spouse, we both sort of live more rural, not completely rural, but, not in the thick of a downtown city. Mm-hmm. And Mike says, that's not my idea of ideal living. I said, oh, did you share that with her? Oh, gosh, no. So you see the difference already. Yeah. So I just flagged it for me. I said, well, that is quite different. Where you want to live is important, right? What your view of an ideal spot.
And I think that was part of like when Trisha and I, we first got together was at school, which I don't want to cast aspersions on anybody, because, lots of people, lots of my friends who ended up getting married out of Queens are still wonderfully happily married. But it was kind of an artificial environment, and you assume a lot of things that you have in common because you're in that bubble. And then when you get out of the bubble and you start, living real life, or at least life outside the bubble, you realize, so for instance, like Trish is definitely does not want to live in the city. Like her goal has always been to get back to living rural, living out in the, like basically cabin kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
No.
That's her idea. Not mine. I don't like living in houses. I would rather live in an apartment, and I would rather live in an apartment either here in Orleans or in Beacon Hill or somewhere east of the core. Like that's my, like, I don't like grass. I don't see the point of grass. And I'm not somebody who fixes things. I'm not a
Yes.
handyman, not like my father. My father, oh my gosh, I think he really enjoys when things break because he gets a chance to fix them. But not me. I would rather just, live in an
Yeah.
apartment. Yeah.
And Brad and
But
I picked up much the same. He was doing his, becoming a teacher, and I was becoming a dietitian. And yeah, we met in university. And, then it was just the next step, you
yeah,
hook up. And like you said, we had 2 kids. And yeah, and his communication style and problem solving is way different than mine. But
yeah.
you don't
I just
talk like that when you're in your 20s.
no.
So
No, I just look
how's
back
your
at I look back
communication
at all the
style?
positives, and I'll look back at the way that boy, I tell you, this is not what I thought we'd be talking. But looking back at the way that we co-parented,
Yes.
made sure that we were on the same page. And we were. I mean, that's definitely one thing that remained in common was like our hopes and dreams for the kids and how we wanted
Yeah.
them to be raised. And I'd like to think we raised two very open-minded, progressive, compassionate, and passionate people who care about the things that we care about. I mean, for me, like equality and environmental things, and just looking at the world from the point of view of the most vulnerable. I really do believe that's what Christians are called to do, and that's how we've raised them. It's funny, and they've retained that, and in fact, they think that I know my youngest one definitely thinks that I'm more conservative than he is, so it's like,
Wow.
and many of the rooms that I find myself in, I'm like the most lefty kind of guy. And now,
Yeah.
like when I'm sitting with my boys, I'm not. I'm like,
That's
well,
cool.
like we argue about things. Like I'm somebody, I don't know what it is about me, but I'm kind of a monarchist. I like the fact, that kind of thing. Like that's an example.
Yeah.
Like I believe a constitutional monarchy is the best way to defend democracy. I really believe that. They think that's hogwash. And they're like,
Oh,
you're
that's cute.
you're
Yeah.
too old. That's just that's just a boomer way. They call that's their insult. They say, oh yeah, okay, boomer. And I'm like, hey, whoa. But,
Yes. No, absolutely. Yeah. I saw the new pictures of Kate at 40.
yeah.
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 Very nice. Yeah. No, I have high hopes for William and her when they get to that door. So yeah, it'll be cool, hopefully, to live in a time where they are present, because the Queen is definitely getting quite old. So
Oh my gosh. I saw, yeah. And her Christmas address this year, she looked old. And I think it's because I'm wondering it's because after Philip died,
yes, and you've
you
dealt
often
with
see
this in
that.
your vocation, right?
Yeah.
People who lose their spouse. I mean, she has really lost. It's quite a loss. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heart
Well, you
dies,
never know
right?
what you're going to talk about before church.
I
Well,
know. So
folks,
I'm going to let you go because it's almost time, and I don't know if Dick's there, but Happy New Year, Dick.
Happy New Year, Dick. I'm looking down because that's where his little bubble is.
I know that's mine too, but he doesn't seem to be there.
Well, Zoom fatigue. I that's the other thing is like I am just like willing myself forward through this current set of lockdowns or whatever we call them. In Ontario, we're calling it a return to a modified step 2 of the path 3 opening.
Oh my word.
That's what it's called. It's a bit
Wow.
of a mouthful, but we're
Like
doing
I'm
what we
going
have to do.
swimming at 1, so I'm allowed to do that, right? I just had to
Okay.
book a lane. So that's what I'm doing. And I work from home as well. So I find it a lot. Like, yes, and I'm a pretty, as you know, extroverted, high energy, happy person. But even I'm beginning to find it too much. So yesterday I sat and prioritized every day I'm going to the pool for a swim. And so you have to call and book it, right? Because there's only 8 lanes. So I called and got ahead of, all the other people who are calling. So at least this week I have, the hour swim, because you just feel better after you, like you said, you
Oh,
exercise. You need to
100%.
get out of your house what is it? Someone said to me, when you work where you live, you've got to be very, very cautious.
Yes, you do. And that goes for our students too.
Yes.
I got 2 high schoolers and they are always at school.
Yeah.
Gotta be
No, it's
mindful of
crazy.
that.
Yeah.
And but you're right. I think just like having the dog for me is the great thing, because every day she's got to go out for a walk. If she doesn't get her 45-minute walk, she goes squirrely.
Yeah. And
And
when I saw this, I
yeah.
thought this was cool. And my suggestion, I know it's tied to church, of course, but it would be cool to just, anyone who wanted to do this like one evening a week, or, I'd be up for that, like just to have a
Okay.
cup of tea or a glass of wine with a few folks. And I know a few of my friends, we do this because some people are just so nervous to go out, right? Like out at
Yeah.
all. Like they think, how can you go to the pool? Well, we're all really far apart from each other. And I don't, I wear my mask and not in the pool, of course, but I think if I don't do that, I'm going to go insane.
Yeah. Yes. We don't want to go insane.
No. So I'll let
And
you
I'm
go.
going to go insane
And,
if I miss it.
yeah, hopefully next week the Narthex will be better attended. You can say
Wow, who
one
knows?
person attended for Nova Scotia.
There you go.
And
All
Dick.
right.
Bye.
Blessings and
Blessings.